Well, hello there. Welcome in. Made it through another week. How about that? Glad to have you along, whether you're listening on Extra Sports 1300, 740 KVOR, or you're streaming the show on those two stations' apps, one for each. They're both free to download. They're both free to use, and you can listen to this or any of your favorite shows on either station in crystal clear streaming audio. There is another way to consume the show on a daily basis, which I highly recommend, and that's watching it. So we could see each other. Well, you could see me. I can't see you. So, sorry about that. But you could video stream the show anywhere that you scroll on social media. It will be a veritable cornucopia of sports topics over the course of the program, and I'd love to get your thoughts. I can't see you. I can hear from you. 719-247-1313. You could call or text in your thoughts, or you can simply drop a comment on the live stream that you are watching. Let us start today with what is quickly becoming the topic of training camp: regression. I need a bump to play after that. It's first week of training camp, a lot of talk about regression. Of course, a lot of talk around these parts on regression because the Denver Broncos were an NFL record 11-2 in one-score games. And when you look at teams, as we're all trying to figure out where we're going to rack and stack all these teams for the upcoming season, the first place to go is record in one-score games. Because one-score games, by definition, are a 50-50 proposition. So when you have a team like the Denver Broncos that finishes 11-2, you look at them like you looked at the Kansas City Chiefs the year before in the ridiculous amount of one-score games they won, and you went, regression. Kansas City from 24 to 25 regressed immensely in one-score games. They were 1-9 last year in one-score games. I don't believe, just for the record, that the Denver Broncos are going to have their record in one-score games completely flipped. I may not think as highly of the Broncos this upcoming season as you do, but I do not think all of a sudden they go from 11-2 in one-score games to 2-11. But I think where you kind of start is 13's a hard number to divide in half, so let's take 12. History says 6-6 in one-score games, and how many, how much more to the positive are you going to put the Broncos? 8-4? You're still talking about 3 wins taken off of their win total from the previous year, on top of an extremely difficult schedule to begin the season. And in a highly competitive, not just AFC, but specifically AFC West, shaving 3 wins off the total would absolutely be the difference between the Broncos winning the AFC West and not winning the AFC West. And depending on how good the AFC is this year, which I expect some of the traditional powers to reemerge, that could be the difference between making the playoffs and not making the playoffs. So that's why the last few days, the conversation from Sean Payton and Quinn Meinerz specifically, and Mike McGlinchey, has been not replicating an 11-2 record in one-score games, but staying out of 13 one-score games, not playing in 13 one-score games. It's not about the regression. I think that the Broncos actually, quite candidly, have acknowledged that 11-2 is not sustainable is not possible from one year to the next. I think they realize that, and I think they understand what the math of all of this is. So their solution, I think rightly, I think they got the right plan. Stay out of them. Stay out of these one-score games the best that you can, especially ones that come down to the last play of the game. Earlier this week, I said, there are some one-score games that aren't weighted the same. If you're up by 10 and someone gets a garbage time field goal on you with 5 seconds left, that's not really what we're talking about, right? We're talking about games that are truly decided at the very end. Broncos got to stay out of those kind of games. It is unachievable for this team to go 11-2 in one-score games. Will not happen again this year. So that's the story out of Denver. They know that those one-score games, that number could regress, which would lead the Denver Broncos to regress. So they're looking to stay out of those. Well, the regression conversation has traveled across the country to the Windy City, or at least I still think that's where the Chicago Bears play. They might be in Indiana already. I'm not sure. I'm not keeping up with it. But before I can get to what Ben Johnson said, I first have to set this up properly. Liam Cohen, head coach of the Jacksonville Jaguars, was on 1010 XL down in the Sunshine State. And he was asked a very normal question, a question that has been asked to Sean Payton and many other coaches who enjoyed a great amount of success the previous year. How do you reignite that fire? How do you motivate a team that achieved so much? And here's Liam Cohen talking about the number one reason why he loves coaching the Jacksonville Jaguars.
Right. You know what I said to the staff the other day was, I go, guys, this is the best part of coaching the Jacksonville Jaguars. You don't have to make up telling your players stuff. You don't have to make up the fire. You don't have to make it up. It's given to us every day. Yeah. And it's like a welcome. It's a gift from the heavens. From the, you just scroll. I just go pull up my phone, look at the NFL Network website, and just pop up here. And I'm just curious if I see any photos or anything about the Jacksonville Jaguars. I think I'll just scroll right on through.
Keep going. Yeah.
I think I'll see 40 pictures of Caleb Williams, and I won't see a single thing about any of our players on here. And so it's beautiful.
Pretty good. This guy, I talked about him a little bit yesterday. Liam Cohen has come a long way from that super awkward, cringy Duval that he dropped in his opening press conference. Guy's a little bit more comfortable in his shoes. But that's how we get, you may be wondering, how we get from Denver to Chicago. Why do we have to stop over in Jacksonville? What is this, a Frontier flight? No. It's because Liam Cohen said that, and the media, as you and I both know, they love to twist things. They twist words around in order to weaponize it and to spark a feud in what may be the next great NFL rivalry between the Jacksonville Jaguars and the Chicago Bears. I present to you Ben Johnson.
All he ever hears about is Caleb Williams. I'm curious what you think about another coach throwing his name out there, and whether you're dealing with the opposite situation here of hammering to your guys not to believe the hype.
Well, we're the number one regression candidates, so I think we got plenty of motivation ourselves. We talked about Caleb in the past. He's used to handling a lot of attention, so I'm not worried about that.
You see what the evil media does. That is so not what Liam Cohen meant. He is not trying to pick a fight and start a rivalry with Ben Johnson. He probably pulled up NFL.com and saw Caleb Williams. Caleb Williams is on the cover of Madden. I think he would just pulled out Caleb Williams. But you know what? Don't let the facts get in the way of a good story. You twist the question that way, and there goes Ben Johnson. By the way, the next great NFL rivalry takes place in December when Jacksonville meets Chicago. It's almost as if there are script writers at the National Football League offices. How often do we get Jacksonville playing Chicago, and we had what happened today, and they just so happen to be playing each other? Well done, Roger Goodell and company. So, but Ben Johnson brings up regression candidate. That's how he has been motivating his team, is that people are saying that the Chicago Bears are the number one regression candidate in the league. Which brings up an obvious question that I posed to you at 719-247-1313. Who is the prime regression candidate? Is it Chicago or is it Denver? And I will tell you, it is the Chicago Bears. Ben Johnson is correct. Why, you may ask? Well, first of all, the Chicago Bears win 7-4 one-score games. One of the best records, in fact, the third best record in the NFC in one-score games. So there could be a bit of regression there, sure. Caleb Williams with his late-game heroics, not just, driving the ball down the field and winning, but you saw some of the plays made by Caleb Williams. He absolutely snatched victory from the jaws of defeat. So there was a little bit of magic, if you will, from Caleb Williams this year. Magic that I think a lot of people don't believe is going to continue. And I like Caleb Williams. I'm still holding firm that he is the best quarterback in that 2024 class. But you look at the way Chicago won some of their games, and you're like, they can't do this again. So good in one-score games, some miracle endings to the game. And here's the number one to me. I don't think their defense is that good. I don't think their defense is that good. So do I believe in Caleb Williams' ability to lead the Bears on a game-winning drive? Yes. Do I believe in the Bears getting a stop of another quarterback on a 2-minute drill late in the game? Not as much. And then you throw in the fact, and when you talk about regression candidates, and we talk about this too when it comes to which playoff teams we don't think are going to be in, or the ones we think are going to be in that were out last year. Well, it's got to be a zero-sum game, right? If Chicago's going to regress, there's got to be somebody in the NFC North that can overtake them, that can threaten to overtake them. And there just so happen to be 3 teams in the NFC North that I think are capable of overtaking the Chicago Bears in the division. Let me give you the records of the teams in the NFC North last year. So the Bears win 11-6. The Packers were 9-7-1. The Bears were the only double-digit win team in that division. The Minnesota Vikings were 9-8. I just so happen to think that Kevin O'Connell is going to get a lot out of Kyler Murray. And then you have maybe the team more than Green Bay or Minnesota that I look at and I say they're going to be back. The Detroit Lions finished 1 game over 500. So it's not just why the Bears will regress. To make them the number one regression candidate, there has to be some kind of penalty for that, some kind of punishment. It has to cost them something. If they regress by 2 games and they still win the division at 9-8, are they really the number one regression candidate? They still won the division. When I think of regression, yes, it's the one-score games and it's some of the metrics and things like that, but it's also regressing in their division. To put it another way, I think the Chicago Bears are throughout the league probably the most vulnerable reigning division champion. So I agree with Ben Johnson. Now, Ben Johnson is going to use it as motivation, and we'll see what the Chicago Bears do. But I do think they're the number one regression candidate. But right behind them is the Denver Broncos, because you can't go 11-2 in one-score games and not be one of the two prime regression candidates. The question just becomes how well the Broncos can stay out of those games. I don't think they're going to play in 13 one-score games. I think they'll accomplish that goal to an extent. But again, let's say they play 10 one-score games. I think they're going to drop a couple here that they wouldn't have the year prior. They just have so many one-score games in a league that, it has to be mentioned, normally comes down to one score. Right? That's where this idea of parity and everything comes in the NFL, because all of these games are close. So maybe the Broncos can get out of a couple of them, but that could be, one could be a decisive win, one could be a blowout loss. But it's hard. It's hard to stay out of one-score games. Broncos are right to try, and maybe they'll succeed and not play in 13 one-score games. But the way they're built is to play one-score games. They try to beat you on the margins. That's Sean Payton's whole deal. Now, what they're hoping with Jalen Waddle is that it will open up the margins a little bit. They won't be as thin. But everything else about this team is winning on the margins. The defense doesn't take the ball away. They bend but don't break. Can Davis Webb and Jalen Waddle open up those margins a little bit? And the Broncos, like every AFC West team, have to be fair here. If you're a Charger fan or a Raider fan or a Chiefs fan, like, look at your schedule. It's tough. So you have a brutal first 6 weeks of the season. You're coming off of an insane record in one-score games. And again, the consequence of the division, the Chargers, healthy. Kansas City, healthy. And there's no way that the Chiefs are winning 6 games again this year. But there are 3 other teams that I look at if I were looking at the top 5 regression candidates in the league. Number 1, Chicago. Number 2, Denver. I put number 3, Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh, 7-3 in one-score games. Aaron Rodgers, another year older. Offensive line, still as bad as ever. Lamar bounced back. Joe Burrow healthy. I think Pittsburgh, who won the division last year, could regress. Carolina Panthers. It's hard for me to kind of say this because they actually weren't that good. Because every team in the NFC South, not good. That was the worst division in football last year. But not a big believer in Bryce Young long-term. And you saw what happened towards the end of last season with the Saints and Tyler Shuck. I think they're going to be better. I think Baker Mayfield is looking to lay waste to everybody that lays in front of him. And thankfully he plays 6 games inside the NFC South. So I think he'll have the opportunity to do that. I think Carolina is going to regress. And this one is, I believe this, but it's not to say that they're going to be bad. I think an obvious one is Seattle. Right? Won that NFC West one of the best records in the NFL, obviously, at 14-3. Super Bowl hangover, all of that kind of stuff. I think Seattle's going to come back down a little bit, but they're still, and they don't have Kenneth Walker anymore, right? No, they don't have their Super Bowl MVP. I think Seattle's going to regress. Now, I think the stakes for Seattle, as opposed to the other teams I mentioned, are not as dire. I still think Seattle's definitely going to be a playoff team this year. But being the best team in the NFL, winning one of the best divisions in football, I don't know that Seattle's going to be able to do that again. So those are my 5 top regression candidates. Take your thoughts. 719-247-1313. How much do the Broncos regress this year? And if they're not the prime regression candidate in the NFL, who is? 719-247-1313. Coming up next, J.K. Dobbins not only making you a promise, he is making you a pinky promise about this upcoming season. Family fun doesn't have to cost a fortune. Save half off or more on attractions like Overdrive Raceway, Bogies and Brews, and the U.S. Olympic and Paralympic Museum with sweet deals. Shop now at extrasports1300.com or kvor.com. The prime regression candidate conversation got some response, so let's go to those before you hear from Broncos running back J.K. Dobbins. This coming in from the 719. Pittsburgh actually got better, and they finally got rid of Tomlin. But they replaced Tomlin with Mike McCarthy. So if you want to make the argument that they had gone as far as they could with Mike Tomlin, I'm not going to argue with you. But is Mike McCarthy, and remember, where we're starting from is that this team won the division last year. It's probably the one across the entire NFL, that in Carolina, where you have to remind yourself, oh, Pittsburgh won that division. So we're starting from Pittsburgh winning the division. Aaron Rodgers another year older, and you're replacing Tomlin with McCarthy. Mike McCarthy's fine, but just remember the way that we have talked about Mike McCarthy over the years. Be curious, how is Pittsburgh, and I'm legitimately asking, how is Pittsburgh better this year than last year? Besides the coaching change. Okay. There's one regression candidate that you disagree with. Tom says, sounds like you don't have the Broncos winning the division. So do you have the Chiefs, who don't have any pass-catching weapons, and a QB who won't be able to run for half the year, the Chargers, who are going to Charger? First of all, I feel a little attacked. And second of all, the latter. I am not taking the Kansas City Chiefs to win the division. I am taking the LA Chargers. And in fact, my predictions for this upcoming NFL season will have a theme. And it will be a self-serving theme. And that self-serving theme will be, I am going to ride with these teams one more time. And if I don't see return on my emotional investment, I'm done. That's what this year's going to be for me. What other teams there are in that group, you got to tune in and find out. But I'll give you one right off the bat here at the very end of July. I think the LA Chargers are going to win the AFC West. I don't know that right now, I can take Kansas City to beat out Denver. So just in case you're wondering where I think Kansas City is right now. I don't agree with everything you're saying about the Kansas City Chiefs, but the list for me is as long as your list. Mahomes is actually the lead, and this speaks to where the Kansas City Chiefs are right now. Patrick Mahomes coming off of an ACL injury is actually the least of my concerns. It's the least of my concerns. Losing your entire secondary, Chris Jones last year not looking completely lost, Travis Kelce being a year older. And I love the addition of Kenneth Walker, but last time I checked, a running back has to run through an offensive line to be able to gain yards, and I do not believe in the line in front of Mahomes or Kenneth Walker. Now, I do think they're going to win more than 6 games, but there's this middle ground between Kansas City is back, everyone cower in fear, and the Chiefs winning 6 games. But if it were a continuum, a spectrum, I'd certainly be more towards the 6 wins than I am everyone cower in fear the Kansas City Chiefs are back. Tom says, Tom, you know what, Tom? Tom keeps receipts. He keeps his receipts. So Omarion Hampton is going to go crazy and prove you wrong about the Jahdae Barron draft pick. It's more Herbert-centric and Mike McDaniel more than it is Omarion Hampton. But I will. One, for those who don't know, I thought that the Broncos made a good pick in Jahdae Barron. Tom disagreed and said that the Broncos should have taken Omarion Hampton. Right now, neither one of us are right. Tom's trending in a better direction than I am. But right now, it's too early. Too early to call the race here between Omarion Hampton and Jahdae Barron. But this is a big year for Jahdae Barron. He needs to be taking over homeboy's spot opposite Pat Surtain. And I saw a couple of things today, couple pass breakups for Riley Moss. The Riley Moss hype train is starting to get out of the station here. Maybe. But if Omarion Hampton does go off and Jahdae Barron is still a bench warmer for the Denver Broncos, you will have won the battle, but I will have won the war because I would be right about the LA Chargers winning the division. Unless you're also picking the Chargers, and then you kind of are negating my ability to get one back over on you. Big year. Big year for some of Ryan's. I mean, this is like when Josh Rosen ended up on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Like, this is a real make or break year for one of Ryan's takes. It's good, though. It's good. My memory is not as good as it used to be. Thankfully, Tom is here to remind me of the things I have said. So, yes, I said that Jahdae Barron was the better pick because I thought that he could be a really good corner to be opposite Pat Surtain. And last year, he wasn't. One of the big things I'm looking out for in Broncos training camp, Jahdae Barron. Where is he? Today, nowhere to be found. It was Riley Moss Day. Yes, he got burned. Of course he did. But it was good coverage, guys. It was good coverage. He just happened to get like either Riley Moss is the most unlucky athlete in sports, or maybe there's a little bit of coddling going on with Riley Moss, because I don't know how many times I have heard that Riley Moss, man, great coverage, he just got beat. Just got beat. Just interfered with the receiver. It was good coverage. Jahdae Barron needs to take that spot for the Broncos to be the best version of themselves. And we'll do that. What does the best version of the Denver Broncos this season look like? There's an early hint. Jahdae Barron emerges and takes over Riley Moss's spot, and the Broncos can move Riley Moss for draft capital. 719-247-1313. I'll keep taking your thoughts on regression candidates. So we got one no vote for Pittsburgh, who is in my top 5 prime regression candidates. I had Chicago, Denver, Pittsburgh, Carolina, and Seattle. Seattle is not me being doom and gloom. I just think that Seattle's going to come back to the pack a little bit this year. Still good team, but maybe not what they were last year. 719-247-1313. Now coming up next, you will get J.K. Dobbins' pinky promise about what? Tell you next. Want to see every Air Force football home game this fall starting on Monday. Jim Arthur and myself are giving you ample opportunities to qualify to win 4-season tickets to Air Force football. All you need to do is be listening to Jim Arthur and Sean Martinez, 5 a.m. to 8 a.m. on Colorado Springs Morning News, 740 KVOR. And then, as you are doing right now, join me in the afternoons for another chance for you to qualify. We'll take on a bunch of qualifiers, and then we'll pick a winner as we get closer to that Duquesne game the first Saturday in September. So, because Bo Nix ended up getting hurt, as you recall, before the AFC Championship game, that is the number one guy coming off of an injury. What might have been? What can they do now that player X is healthy? Bo Nix takes that, right? Takes the top spot in that. But prior to Bo Nix's injury, it was J.K. Dobbins. Remember, there was reports that if the Broncos made the Super Bowl, J.K. Dobbins would be able to play. J.K. Dobbins, prior to the Super Bowl and the AFC Championship, put something out on social media hinting that he was coming back soon. I think he was saying that with the expectation that the Broncos were going to Super Bowl. Bo Nix gets hurt at the end of the Buffalo game. I'm not worried about Stiddy, fourth down. All of that stuff happens. We don't see Bo Nix again. We don't see J.K. Dobbins again. But the Denver Broncos decided they wanted J.K. Dobbins back, despite another season taken away by injury. And Sean Payton today was asked the question of why they decided to bring J.K. Dobbins back.
There's a lot to him. And when you're evaluating, all right, the type injury he had, how it happened, what he brings to the team, we had strong opinions, George and I and the rest of the group, about re-signing him. He was a big part of why we won 14 games last year. And sometimes that can get lost in the narrative. Certainly he's been injured, and yet, what we were able to do when he was healthy had a lot to do with where we ended up. So it was unfortunate. I believe in the player a lot. And look at that room has gotten markedly better from what I remember in 2023.
Well, first thing at the end there, you did have Javonte Williams. Depth better, absolutely, but Javonte Williams has had quite the time with Dallas. So, but point made, right? R.J. Harvey, J.K. Dobbins. Now you add Jonah Coleman, who we haven't discussed much here at the opening of camp, but I'm sure we will as camp proceeds, because he figures to be the highest impact rookie, which should say something about the expectations for this rookie class. Keep them down a little bit, because Jonah Coleman is definitely third right now on that depth chart. But people are intrigued by him. I'm intrigued by him. So I'm sure we'll be talking about Jonah Coleman more as we move forward. But J.K. Dobbins, but Sean Payton gets right to the heart of it. Like, he says the narrative is him being hurt, but yet when he was healthy, look what he did. Well, Chargers can say that same thing. Ravens can say that same thing. The whole point of this, I don't think anyone questions J.K. Dobbins as a running back. That's not the question here. The question is whether he can stay healthy. And yes, it's been different injuries, which I think just more speaks to maybe there's just something about J.K. Dobbins where his body lets him down. It's not his fault. I'm not putting blame on the guy. He seems to be in terrific shape. He works incredibly hard. Just some guys, their body fails them. And so it's one of the big questions of the Broncos' upcoming season. Was this injury that J.K. Dobbins suffered, this Liz Frank injury, was it just freak occurrence and everything will be all right? Or are we just waiting for another J.K. Dobbins injury? I get what Sean Payton's saying about J.K. I mean, the guy through 10 weeks of the season was top 5 in the NFL in rushing. And if they can have that kind of a guy all throughout the year, that'd be great. Don't forget, part of the reason why on 4th and short in the AFC Championship that Sean Payton trusted Jarrett Stidham was because he did not have J.K. Dobbins to run the football. Or Bo Nix, for that matter. But one of the ways that the Broncos can be better this upcoming season is a more consistent running game. I don't know that the Broncos are ever going to be the number 1 rushing team in the NFL. I just don't think that they have the personnel for it and the temperance for it, because I just don't think Davis Webb is going to be so far removed from Sean Payton that it's going to be 3 yards in a cloud of dust. I think Davis Webb might be more inclined to run the football. I don't actually know. None of us know. I'm just looking at Sean Payton. I'm saying Davis Webb has to be more committed to the run game than Sean Payton is. I don't think, and especially when you're talking about having 3 running backs and Sean Payton's insistence that they rely on 3 running backs. Like, that divvies up the carries a little bit. And it'll be, I don't know if they'll have 1 rusher at the top if all 3 of those guys are healthy. But J.K. Dobbins made a pinky promise today, and it's a pretty big one.
I know a lot of people always say, oh, he's good for the first 10 weeks. Like, I'll be in the top 3 for the first 10 weeks, right? And they'll be like, oh, he does this every time. Well, this year, forget a top 3. I keep saying it. People think I'm crazy, but I'm going to be number 1. And I'm going to keep it there for the whole year, 17 games. A lot of people always get mad when I say, yeah, the injuries are over, because I said it last year, but that one was pretty fluky, right? This year, there won't be any. And there won't be anything for anyone to say about my injuries, because I'm going to play all 17 games, and I'm going to give my team everything I got for all 17 games, and I will be there for all 17 games. We can I'll pinky promise all of you right now about that.
You hear before the whether I believe him or not, you can hear there why the Broncos love J.K. Dobbins. How could you not love J.K. Dobbins? The personality, the commitment that he has to the team. And then when he drops in little lines like this today too, it's hard not to love J.K. Dobbins if you're a Broncos fan.
I was born to be a Bronco. Like, I know I was drafted to the Ravens and played for the Chargers for 1 year, but I think I'm truly a Bronco. Like, I think all roads led to here. I said last year I had to get over the mountain to get here. And I'm here, and I'm here to stay.
Can't question his commitment. Can't question his love for the Denver Broncos. And when he is healthy, you cannot question his productivity. But this is where the 3 running back thing comes into play. For J.K. Dobbins to lead the league in rushing, we got to kind of put away some of the R.J. Harvey, Jonah Coleman talk. Like, he's got to be the guy. So here's another, if we could just keep heaping questions on Davis Webb as we eagerly await his first chat with us of training camp. Are you a 3-back rotation guy, or are you a bell cow guy? If you have a bell cow, or do you have a number 1 guy? But the leading the league in rushing is, I'll just say I don't believe that J.K. Dobbins is going to lead the league in rushing. I'll just put that out there right now. His health is the bigger thing, right? Whether him being healthy for 17 games, if I'm a Broncos fan, I don't care if that puts him number 1, number 3, number 5, number 7. If he is healthy for the entirety of the season, the Broncos have the ability to be more consistent with the running game, which makes them more difficult to defend, which takes pressure off of Bo Nix, which allows them to control the clock and not put the defense repeatedly in these positions where they have to defend a short field and get right back out there, especially early in football games, right? We talked about this earlier this week, how the Broncos stay out of the one-score games. It's not, having the explosion in the fourth quarter. That's what they did all last year to put themselves in these one-score games. It's quarters 1 through 3 where the offense lies dormant, and then all of a sudden they wake up when the fourth quarter rolls around. Well, how do you do that? How do you start faster? How do you put up more points earlier in the game to allow your defense to now not have to keep your team in the game, but can go out there, pin their ears back, pressure the quarterback that now has to throw because they're down by multiple scores? Like the paradigm needs to be shifted a little bit with this Denver Broncos team. And the offense has to be helping the defense a little bit more than the other way around this year in order for the Broncos to not be the number 1 regression candidate in the league and to be able to win a division and to take a step further and go to the Super Bowl. So where J.K. Dobbins ends up in the pecking order in terms of leading rushers is far less important than just him being on the field for 17 games. That's what the Broncos need. Because I'm not to the point that I would trust, and that's part of the conversation too. You want the Broncos to be more consistent with the run game. Do you trust R.J. Harvey to be that guy in year 2? Do you trust Jonah Coleman in year 1 to be that guy? So we have to be a little fair to Sean Payton, a little bit, and say, well, he didn't have J.K. Dobbins. Maybe you understand why he was a little bit less inclined to run the football in the biggest games of the season. Take your thoughts on J.K. Dobbins and his pinky promise. Not only will he be available for all 17 games, but he will lead the league in rushing. Do you buy either of those things? 719-24-7, 1313. While we're talking about a huge bounce back for a member of the Denver Broncos coming up next, how about that tight end of theirs? Does Davis Webb have any plans to get Evan Ingram more involved in the passing offense? You don't hear from Davis Webb, but you'll hear from Sean Payton and maybe a key piece of information on why Ingram was so quiet last year. Welcome in. Great to have you, whether you're listening to the show, Extra Sports 1300, 740 KVOR, or if you are watching the show anywhere you scroll, so long as you follow at Extra Sports 1300, at 740 KVOR, or you can follow me. I am at Gingerly Tweets on X and at Gingerwatch on Instagram. It is great sign of respect in our culture to follow on social media. So I'm just throwing it out there. I can't look my kids in the eye if I don't have a certain number of followers on Instagram and Twitter. So just if you want to help a guy out, that'd be great. And you can watch the show. And you can interact with the show by commenting on the live stream you're watching, or there are more traditional means, which are calling and texting into the show at 719-247-1313. Part of training camp is hype. Let me amend that. All of training camp is about hype. That's all everyone is doing. Have you heard this week? There is not, and this is crazy, there is not a single team in the National Football League that cannot win the Super Bowl. Now, you may hear that. In theory, yeah, everyone's 0-0. But I'm saying, like, go to all of these individual places. They all think they can win the Super Bowl. Now, yesterday on the show, using Sean Payton's rubric on having good quarterback play, good coaching, a good defense, and good offensive and defensive line play, I have the number at 8. That check all those boxes, with maybe 4 more that check all but one box. So I don't think it's all 32. But you go around the NFL, it's all 32, baby. Just as long as Shedeur Sanders starts over Deshaun Watson. That's really the one spot that's a little bit of a, there's a caveat to it. If Deshaun Watson is the starting quarterback for the Cleveland Browns, they can't win. But if Shedeur starts, they can. But that's what it's about. It's all on paper. It's all in theory. We're still, technically in the offseason, and teams have gone out and improved their football team. This is the part of the calendar where hope springs eternal. Like opening day in baseball. Training camp is that. And then the injuries mount, and then you watch them in preseason games, and about half the field is given no shot by the time we reach the opener. But right now, it's all hype. It's all everything is possible. Both at a team level, but also at an individual level. And I think that there's no player on the Denver Broncos to this point, a week into training camp, that embodies this more than Evan Ingram. Because today was a great day for Evan Ingram at training camp, and it made him a big topic of conversation when the media met with Sean Payton on just how Evan Ingram makes more of an impact with his second year with the Denver Broncos. First of all, the question was posed to Sean Payton on whether Davis Webb, Sean Payton notoriously, other than when he had Jimmy Graham, not a big tight end guy, at least a pass-catching tight end guy. His kind of guy is more like Adam Troutman, but you also have the J word, joker, thrown around about Evan Ingram. But yet, Evan Ingram noticeably absent most Sundays. So could a change in offensive coordinator lead to a change in philosophy when it comes to using the tight end more in the offense, especially Evan Ingram?
He can definitely be a big asset for us. I think one of his strengths is he can run. And I think it's good that he's getting these reps along with the younger guys.
Doesn't sound like an overwhelming vote of confidence to me about Evan Ingram from Sean Payton. And I think I feel more that way because I heard the rest of what Sean Payton said. And I think this might be a little telling on why you didn't see more of Evan Ingram, see him play a bigger role in the Broncos offense last year. Here's Sean Payton on Davis Webb integrating Ingram into the offense.
He's trying to find different ways where you might have a matchup. And I think that's a good thing. And so now it's just executing, and it's, ball security, catching, the landmarks, some of the nuances. But yeah, I mean, he's one other piece where you're trying to, spread the ball around, and who's going to earn those touches? Those got to be earned.
Doesn't sound like Sean Payton was thrilled with Evan Ingram last year, which begs the question: why did you bring him back? But so there's two things right now with Evan Ingram. Right? Let's take that clip from Sean Payton there. So did Evan Ingram not do enough to earn touches in the Broncos offense? I think that can be true. I think it can also be true that in Sean Payton's offense, a tight end is not the position that he looks to on a regular basis to move the ball downfield. He just historically has not, unless he's had a freak at that position like Jimmy Graham. Just go back and look. I'm telling you. And then he gives them the kiss of death a little bit, at least in Denver's, the word joker has lowered in value every year that Sean Payton has been in Denver, because when he first arrived and threw around that word, everyone went back to his time in New Orleans, and it was like, wow, Darren Sproles, Reggie Bush, Alvin Kamara, oh my goodness. Evan Ingram can be that kind of a guy. RJ Harvey can be that kind of a guy. It's one thing to possess some of the traits for that role, which again is not necessarily a role where you have high volume production. It's just the traits that you have that make defenses commit extra attention to you, that create better matchups everywhere else. Sean Payton, when, like many offensive play callers, they're playing chess, right? They're moving one piece out, and it's not because they're attacking your king with their rook. It's that they want to open up a lane for their bishop. And that's what the joker is. It's a piece on Sean Payton's chessboard that he moves around to distract you, that you have to be mindful of it, but meanwhile, he's setting up something else. So that also means, that also could have been a reason why Evan Ingram didn't get a ton of looks. I think it's a combination of everything. It's never just one thing. I don't think Evan Ingram, whether it's his, work ethic, whether it's his grasp of the offense, whatever it might be, I don't think he was doing enough to earn those touches. And I also think his role in a Sean Payton offense was not one that garners a lot of touches. Now we see in Davis Webb's offense whether that can be the case. But here's the thing, okay? You may believe that the Broncos and their offense is going to be better this year. Okay? The main reason probably being Jalen Waddle, yes? Okay. He needs touches. Cortland Sutton, he needs touches. We just in the last segment talked about J.K. Dobbins making a pinky promise that not only is he going to stay healthy for 17 games, he's going to lead the league in rushing. He needs the ball. Sean Payton, if he still has influence over Davis Webb, is going to want to get the other running backs involved. Marvin Mims, you got to find a play or two for him each half. Oh, but Troy Franklin and Pat Bryant, got to get them involved. And by the way, maybe we could put this to the side because he's coming off the ankle injury, but we got to use Bo Nix's legs more. Last time I checked, an NFL game still only 4 quarters. If the Broncos, and I promise you this is a good thing. If this becomes the case for the Denver Broncos this season, this is a good thing. If there is somebody that you truly look at and say, man, they are just not getting any touches, and yet the Broncos are one of the best offenses, that's great. Because there's just not enough to go around. Just isn't. So you can't say that Jalen Waddle's going to have this profound impact and show why he's a number 1 receiver, and then Cortland Sutton's still going to get his third down and red zone touches, and the Broncos are going to commit to the run more, and they're going to develop Troy Franklin and Pat Bryant, and they're going to throw in these, gadget plays with Marvin Mitt. Like Davis Webb, I mean, it's a nice problem to have. If you truly believe in everyone I just mentioned, it's a good problem for Davis Webb to have. But you have all of these guys, all of these expectations about guys getting touches and being productive, and you're heaping this all on the plate of a first-year play caller. I think especially early on in the season, Davis Webb needs to keep the main thing, or the main things, the main things. And the main things to me, establishing and sticking with a productive run game and Jalen Waddle. Whether that's on the short routes, whether that's sending him downfield, I think you need to get Jalen Waddle involved early on in the season, and I think you need to establish your running game early on in the season and early on in the games early in the season, and then you build out from there. The next would be Cortland Sutton, because they're going to go to him on third down. He's one of the best red zone threats in the NFL. So if you get into the red area, you're going to be looking for Cortland Sutton. So there's a hierarchy here. And really, if you look at it, Waddle's got to be a big part of what they do. The run game's got to be a big part of what they do. Cortland Sutton's going to get his looks in those special situations. I think Marvin Mims is a true weapon that they can employ in a number of different ways, and I think that he's valuable and he needs to get looks. He doesn't need as many as some of these other players. And then you go down the list, and then maybe because of Bo Nix's ankle, you want to see how it responds and you want to be careful with it. Then maybe we get to Evan Ingram. So I'm just blanket across the board. Okay, you're going to hear a lot of hype about a lot of different players. Some of it's well-founded. Some of it's just a good 7-on-7 period. But you have to start paring down the list. Everyone can't get touches. Right? Greatest show on turf. Hope, Bruce, Falk, maybe some Oz Hakeem. Right? The Kansas City Chiefs has basically been Travis Kelce for 90% of their offense. And I'm talking when things were going good for it after they lost Tyreek Hill. It was like Mahomes to Kelce constantly. Just because you're not spreading the wealth to 5 or 6 different guys does not mean you can't be a good offense. And in fact, if you're trying to spread it around so much, I could argue that does as much harm as good, especially in the wide receiver room. But if Evan Ingram, I think the one thing that I could say, Waddle comes in with expectation. Cortland Sutton comes in with expectation. Marvin Mims, you know who he is. The run game of the Broncos with J.K. Dobbins back, if he's healthy, you have an expectation there. The nice thing for Evan Ingram is that his expectations will not rise to the level of these other players. And he's starting off much lower, much less productive. So there's a universe here by the end of the year that you're more satisfied with Evan Ingram in year 2 in Denver than you were in year 1, whereas some of maybe these other players, maybe not. You can't get everybody involved. But it is a big question surrounding Davis Webb's offense. Is he more prone to throw to tight ends? We'll see what all of this looks like as we move through camp. 719-24-7, 13-13. Coming up next, the Drive Time Sports Sound Countdown. It was the opening of NFL training camp, so we got some great clips on the countdown. That's coming up next on 740 KVOR and Extra Sports 1300. Whether you're a student, teacher, or parent, we could all use a little extra cash at the beginning of the school year. That's why we're giving 5 winners $1,000 to spend on any of your back-to-school needs. Head to extrasports1300.com or kvor.com to enter this national contest for your chance to win the back-to-school shopping spree. We have debuted a new segment on Fridays on this show that will continue in perpetuity, which we are calling the Drive Time Sound Countdown. This is the 10 best sound clips of the week. They could be press conference audio. They could be highlights, although this time of year, those are hard to come by. Just any kind of sound related to the sports world this week. We count them down from 10 to 1 and give you the very best in sports audio this week. So we start, of course, at number 10 to build the tension. At number 10, we have someone that you know very well, Vic Fangio, Eagles defensive coordinator. Not the next Lewis Black or Bill Maher when it comes to cracking political jokes at press conference this week.
Vic, what's the plan at safety? Is that Marcus's job to lose?
I'm going to be like Fauci and just take the Fifth Amendment on questions. Did you guys see that?
Yeah.
Oh, my God. What was the question?
Oh, that's the type of Vic Fangio humor we do not miss around here. And we have now realized that there is something that Vic Fangio is worse at than being a head coach in the NFL, and it is making timely political humor. But he loved it, and he carried the bit on throughout the press conference. So he's your problem, Philly. At number 9, just getting in. At number 9 this week, a late edition today, J.K. Dobbins and his pinky promise.
I keep saying it. People think I'm crazy, but I'm going to be number 1. And I'm going to keep it there for the whole year. 17 games. A lot of people always get mad when I say, yeah, the injuries are over, because I said it last year, but that one was pretty fluky, right? This year, there won't be any. And there won't be anything for anyone to say about my injuries, because I'm going to play all 17 games, and I'm going to give my team everything I got for all 17 games, and I will be there for all 17 games. We can. I'll pinky promise all of you right now about that.
So there you go. You can take it to the bank. J.K. Dobbins, not only will he be healthy for all 17 games this year, but he will lead the league in rushing. I have my doubts about both of those things. But if he stays healthy for 17 games, if I'm a Broncos fan, I don't care where he ends up on the rushing list, because that makes the Broncos offense more well-balanced, takes pressure off of Bo Nix, and means that the Broncos, compared to what they were at the end of the season, better than what they were. That was number 8 on our Drive Time Sports Sound Countdown. At number 7, it is Caitlin Clark getting candid with Malika Andrews of ESPN on the burden that she carries with all of the nonsense going on around her and her sport.
When I walk out of the locker room, I shouldn't be not fearful of what the conversation is going to be, but, you just it's emotionally exhausting. It's draining. It makes your shoulders tense because people don't want to talk about the basketball. They just want to stir it up and make it something else.
I thought it was a very nice moment from Caitlin Clark to show some vulnerability and say, look, this stuff that, by the way, she has very little to nothing to do with. Hateful people, trolls on the internet will do things in players' name, in people's names. But the minute that player stands up and says, stop doing this, they keep doing it. Why? Because they were just looking for an excuse. They were looking for an outlet to be able to say awful things. But here's Caitlin Clark worried in a big year for her, right? She had the rookie year. She was fantastic. Year 2, she gets banged up. Not even Indiana fever, not much of a storyline. She comes back here in year 3. Big year for her. And she's having to deal with the same nonsense that she's been dealing with since the minute she arrived in the WNBA. And you would think that that moment of vulnerability, her being candid on national television, on ESPN, would cause some of the people who are asking from Caitlin Clark more to kind of tone it down a little bit. But oh no, Monica McNutt of ESPN a day later said that she needs to take more responsibility in the bigoted, racist, sexist, all of those things, correct? The language that's being hurled at other WNBA players. The sisterhood. She needs to look out for the sisterhood. Like, one, she's just talking about this burden and you want her to bear more responsibility. And second, I think we're at the point where the sisterhood of the WNBA needs to support Caitlin Clark a little bit more than the other way around. But they can't help themselves. As Adam Silver said a few weeks ago, Caitlin Clark is now turning into a political football. And it's both sides, and she's caught in the middle, and she's trying to tell people that these things are wrong, but she's also trying to go out there and carry the weight of the league on her shoulders. There's still no bigger star in that league than Caitlin Clark, and she's trying to realize her own dreams of being a champion and an MVP and all of this kind of stuff, and she has to deal with this crap day in and day out. I thought that was going to be a moment where everyone was going to kind of lower the temperature a little bit and try to make it about basketball. No. Day later, very same network, Caitlin Clark needs to bear more responsibility for wackadoos on social media. Tell me the last person that was able to control the wackadoos on social media. We haven't had one yet. So Caitlin Clark's going to be that person? Can she just be the best basketball player she could be and let that resonate and let that help the WNBA out? No, she has to end racism and sexism in America and online. That's number 7 on our Drive Time Sports Sound Countdown. At number 6, we get a little lighter, and it's all football from here on out, at least kind of. Let's start at number 6 on our countdown. Jimmy Haslam, his own dad, is angry at the way he has conducted his teams the last few months.
My dad's 95 and a half, but he still follows every sports move we make. And he called me up after we traded Giannis. He goes, "Do you know that in the last month you traded Myles Garrett and Giannis?" I said, "Yes, sir, I know that." Listen, it's all about what you get, okay?
And we'll see. That was Jimmy Haslam at Browns training camp. He is the owner of the Bucs and the owner of the Browns, and Myles Garrett is now an LA Ram, and Giannis is a member of the Heat. What they got back? We got to play the long game with the Bucs. But Jared Verse does. I will say this: Jared Verse is not a bad replacement for Myles Garrett. Is he Myles Garrett? He'll never be Myles Garrett. And I like Jared Verse. Never going to be Myles Garrett. But at his dollar figure, with what else they got in return, I actually think that trade has a chance to work out well for the Browns. And I can at least say this: the Browns got a whole host of other issues. You know, Jared Verse is going to be the least of them. But that's a rough month for an owner that is already not very well liked. And maybe I wonder if Jimmy Haslam's dad said that he should have just taken the deal from the Celtics so they would have a star player in Jaylen Brown. I wonder if Jimmy Haslam's dad felt that way. And one more before we get into the top 5. At number 6 on our Drive Time Sports Sound Countdown, it's Josh Allen saying, lay off the jerseys.
And stop hating on the jerseys, guys. I don't know if you guys are hating. I don't know. I don't see anything, but they're great. I honestly like. Speaking of new, right? It's a new look. It is. I understand that, but we gotta be new.
Haven't had a lot of jersey reveals this year. Seems a little bit slower, but the Buffalo Bills new uniforms being revealed certainly overshadowed anybody else that made any uniform news this week. Josh Allen is right to launch a preemptive strike, and you heard him there. Like, I don't know if you guys are saying anything. Oh, everybody's saying things. You're right. And you know why? Because they're horrid. They're horrific looking uniforms. They're really bad. But Josh Allen, I think he makes a good point. New stadium, new duds. For a team that is synonymous with getting to the very end and then failing, they could use some new. Maybe this is a new version of the Buffalo Bills moving forward. I just wish they looked better on the field. But there's QB1 saying, lay off the jerseys. Number 6 on our Drive Time Sports Sound Countdown. We'll take a break, come back with the top 5 sports sound bites of the week here on 740 KVOR and Extra Sports 1300. Tomorrow night, Switchbacks FC heads down to the land of enchantment, looking for their 4th straight league win as they take on New Mexico United. Kickoff is at 7:30. Roland Vargas and myself will be on the call at 7 on Extra Sports 1300. We continue with this week's Drive Time Sports Sound Countdown, a collection of the 10 best sports sound bites of the week. To recap, if you are just joining us, at number 10, it was Vic Fangio pulling a Dr. Fauci, pleading the 5th at a question at Eagles camp. At number 9, it was J.K. Dobbins just today, pinky promising that not only will he be healthy for 17 games, he will lead the NFL in rushing. At number 7, it was Caitlin Clark opening up on the burden of the discourse surrounding her and her league. At number 6, it was Jimmy Haslam and his harshest critic, his dad, reminding him that he traded Myles Garrett and Giannis in the span of a month. And at number 6, it is Josh Allen saying, lay off the jerseys, the new uniforms that the Buffalo Bills unveiled this week. At number 5 on our countdown, it is a tradition unlike any other, and we can't really start training camp without hearing from the owner of the Dallas Cowboys, confident in his team, even though he has not seen them play.
I'd give up future to add substantive to where we are today as to a player, to give you an idea about would I invest something substantive to get the right kind of deal to improve us opening day. I would. I feel that good about this team this year. And of course, you know that I haven't seen this team play together. And so, but in general, looking ahead, I think we've got a chance to be worthy of spending some future if we saw an opportunity.
Oh, the Cowboys just need to acquire Justin Herbert and just take all the if hypotheticals and put them all in Dallas at one time. The pause and then well, of course, I haven't seen them play yet. That acknowledgement, that honesty from Jerry Jones. He is one of a kind, isn't he? I think when I do see them play, I will see a team that I believe is worthy of trading future to get somebody to help us now. Probably the reality will be he will see this team in action and go, we got to go trade some future to get someone to help us now. Vita Vea, Max Crosby, somebody like that. And I told the story this week that I golfed with my younger brother who's a Cowboys fan. And then just in passing, I mentioned that I kind of like his boys this year. And it's because I love the pick of Caleb Downs. I know that the offense that Dak Prescott says is going to be the best we've ever seen. I think that's a stretch, but I think the Cowboys offense is going to be really good. I think they're interesting. And then I came to work on Monday and I didn't realize that this was National Hype Up the Cowboys Week. And I said, I don't belong here. No matter how interesting I think they are or how much I like them, I cannot like them as much as ESPN. I just can't. And I would feel out of place there. Like a coworker went to a concert the other night, and I was thinking to myself, I'd like to go to that concert. Then I was like, I don't know that I like them enough to go to that concert. It might not be a great experience for me. And that's kind of what I felt like. Do I really want to join up with be a cog in the Cowboys hype machine? I don't think I do. So not a lot of Cowboys takes this week from me. I will leave that to the national media and to Jerry Jones. Number 5 on our Drive Time Sports Sound Countdown. Believing that this team is worth trading for a significant piece and then acknowledging that he actually has no idea how good this team is going to be. At number 4, it is another staple of the NFL, another person in the NFL that we have grown accustomed to hearing this kind of rhetoric from. At number 4 on our list, it is Baker Mayfield, once again, disrespected.
Disappointing in that regard to not have, to feel disrespected a little bit. And that's really the disappointing part, to feel undervalued after, thinking you've earned it. This is not a poor me thing. There's a lot of other people that have it way worse off, but I can sit here and look at other quarterbacks and peers and evaluate myself based on that and put myself in certain categories that I deserve to be compensated for that. And I think I'm a franchise quarterback. I've been told I'm a franchise quarterback. It's been said publicly from ownership down here. And so to not have a deal done is very disappointing.
Deshaun Watson. He's talking about Deshaun Watson because reportedly Baker Mayfield wanted $50 million a year and somewhere in that ballpark, and that would put him with Daniel Jones and Deshaun Watson. Those are the quarterbacks that he's talking about. I'm better than them. And I think he's right. And I think Baker Mayfield does deserve to get paid. Now, a report today is that the Buccaneers offered him 2 years at an average annual value of $50 million. They met that part of it, but Baker Mayfield told Jeremy Fowler of ESPN the more disrespectful thing in his mind was that they weren't willing to commit to him long term. So as this week has progressed, I find myself drifting more and more over to the Buccaneers side of this equation, not because I don't believe in Baker Mayfield, but I think that this Buccaneers team is getting ready to crumble. And they're getting ready to hit the reset button and start over. Mike Evans is in San Francisco. They may trade Vita Vea. Levante David just retired. I think this Buccaneers team is looking at the end of the line, and why would they want to commit 4 or 5 years to Baker Mayfield, who's on the plus side of 30, if they are going to go through a rebuild? So the 2 years, they're valuing him at the number the right way. I think the 2 years is fair. So I'm a little bit more on Tampa's side as more and more information has come out. Also, for Tampa Bay's side of things, it's not the worst thing in the world for Baker Mayfield to have a chip on his shoulder. Right? Coming off of a down year, a year coming up that does not look super exciting, although they are in a very winnable division. You could use a little X factor and disrespected Baker Mayfield. Baker Mayfield with a chip on his shoulder might be that X factor to help out a Buccaneers team that has lost some talented players, franchise staples this offseason. It's not a bad thing to have disrespected Baker Mayfield. Baker Mayfield thrives on disrespect. So they might be getting the best out of Baker Mayfield this year. And there's a non-zero chance that is actually a part of their calculus. Although they did offer 2 years at $50 million a year. So they're willing to take that chip off of his shoulder. But Baker Mayfield not having it. I don't think it's a bad thing. We'll see how it plays out in Tampa this year. Number 4 on our Drive Time Sports Sound Countdown, Baker Mayfield, disrespected. At number 3, actually one of the more heartwarming moments of the week. It was yesterday with the Saints putting out a video of Drew Brees FaceTiming his old coach and asking him to present him into the Pro Football Hall of Fame.
Honest to God, I can't believe you just did that. And yeah, absolutely, man. We were. Listen, we've done enough of this. Like all of a sudden, it's awesome. I can't wait. I love you too. Appreciate you.
a side of Sean Payton that we don't get to see very much. At a loss for words and emotional. Although I will say that he gets emotional sometimes, but emotional in that way we don't see from Sean Payton a lot. But in all sincerity, an incredibly cool moment. Your feelings about Sean Payton as the Broncos head coach aside, that is a cool moment between two men that meant everything to one another in their careers. Right? We know the story of Drew Brees, promising player in San Diego, got hurt. Saban supposedly wanted him, but Sean Payton brought him in and made him one of the best quarterbacks of his generation. And meanwhile, Drew Brees helped Sean Payton do everything for New Orleans in the wake of Hurricane Katrina. In that clip, you start thinking about what the two of them meant to each other, what the two of them meant to the New Orleans Saints and to the city of New Orleans, and for them to come together one more time in Canton in that way. Very cool. Very cool moment between Sean Payton and Drew Brees. And then Sean Payton proceeded to go back and snap at Broncos beat writers. So, universe is healing. Number 3 on our Drive Time Sports Sound Countdown. At number 2 is the big man on campus in college football, Curt Cignetti, taking a massive shot at the Southeastern Conference.
The Big Ten is the best league in football, and a lot of really good football teams. It's hard to win on the road. Very physical football teams, very well coached. It definitely prepares you for the playoffs. There's no doubt about it. The numbers speak for themselves. I mean, we don't run a hype machine up here in the Midwest. We believe everything's earned, not given. And when we fall short, we say we fell short. We don't cry a river, whine, and complain. All right? And that's why we're the best.
Man, this guy being at the top in college football, so good. The Big Ten doesn't get ESPN to go on a propaganda tour of saying they're already doing this, saying the SEC playing 9 conference games is going to gas them out for the playoff. So if Alabama or LSU or Ole Miss get run out of the college football playoff early, just know it was because they played such a difficult schedule because they had to play Vanderbilt in Kentucky. There are no lies being told by Curt Cignetti. The SEC is bending over backwards over the last couple of weeks to explain why the Big Ten is owning the sport of college football right now and winning national championship after national championship after national championship, where the SEC is flaming out at various points through the playoff. That's Curt Cignetti sending a message, certainly, to his cohorts in the SEC. There was another quote from Curt Cignetti, didn't quite make the countdown. He was asked this week, what's it like going to be being the hunted at Indiana rather than the hunter? He said, I brought a bigger gun. Curt Cignetti, one of one, and clearly has spent all offseason thinking of these one-liners, but it gets him all the way to number 2 on our Drive Time Sports Sound Countdown. But as good as that clip was, it is nothing compared to our number 1, which just so happened to be arguably the biggest story in sports this week. Wasn't NFL training camp. It was Tony Romo. Here's the CBS broadcaster and former Dallas Cowboys quarterback. Even funny in a really bad moment.
You willing to submit to a PBT?
What is that?
Machine that you blow in?
It's a preliminary.
It does not determine the results of
Oh, no, we're not doing that.
Okay.
I've already heard from all the lawyers. Don't ever do that.
Okay.
So
All right.
we're not going to do that.
Okay. All right, sir.
Did I pass this test?
You turn around.
No, I didn't. Huh?
I hate to laugh because it's not the finest moment of Tony Romo's life, but that even I don't think he meant to be funny in that moment, but he was. Did I pass this test? Turn around, please. Oh, guess I didn't. Well, more bad news for Tony Romo today as CBS has placed him on leave. J.J. Watt will be taking over his duties as the top analyst on CBS NFL broadcasts. It's hard not to be a little conspiratorial about this and wonder if maybe CBS was looking for a reason to get out of that massive contract, and maybe, unfortunately for Tony Romo, they found it. That is your Drive Time Sports Sound countdown for this week. Coming up next are the Broncos, the biggest regression candidate in the National Football League.